Hey Kev, let's follow this trail over here. This looks like there might be something waiting down there.
All right. Hey, wait a minute. Do you hear that?
Yeah, I thought it was just me. What the heck is that?
I don't know what that is. Whoa, do you smell that too?
That's unbelievable. Hey, look.
What the?
Hey, look, those branches are moving over there.
What the heck is that?
Holy cow, is that what I think it is? Look at that thing.
Oh my God.
It's a freaking Sasquatch. Welcome to the Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters podcast. I am your host, W.J. Sheehan, author of the series of books Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters. 19 volumes in paperback, 19 volumes in audiobook, including the last 7 that just wrapped up, which is the regional series. These are all previously recorded stories that were organized regionally throughout the country. If you have an interest in a particular area of North America, you could buy that book and know what's going on in your neighborhood. And now, may I introduce you to my brother and my co-host, KJ Sheehan. Kev, how are you?
I'm doing great, Bill. How about you?
Pretty darn good, man.
Yeah, I'm getting over my European jet lag, and now I got Central U.S. jet lag.
So you got a little lead in your shorts.
I do have a little lead in my shorts. But I'm doing okay. It's spring, man. Spring is here.
Of course. Now, I was going to say, better to have that kind of lead in your shorts than being downrange from my double barrel.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, it's all good, and spring is here, so you know what that means, Bill?
Barbecues?
Down here in the southeast, it means that those Bigfoot are going to have a little bit of a green tint to them because of all that pine pollen on them. Greenish yellow tint.
Maybe they're a little bit Irish in them.
They missed St. Patty's Day, but they still may be green.
That's funny, man. Yeah, I'm so glad that things are rolling around, again, as is the case. You can't stop it. We had a tough winter, trying to hang on here and there, but you just can't fight it, man.
No, it's all, I know we both love the seasons. I mean, you live up in New York. I live in North Carolina, so obviously you like the cold weather a lot more than me.
Yeah. I love the frigid weather.
Me, I like it when the flowers come up in, like, March, Yeah, but it's all good.
All right, man. What do we got today, Kevin? Our cryptids in the news and other oddities segment.
Yeah, we got a couple of things, Bill. So we're going to go with other oddities. This isn't something that I would normally cover, but I talked to you about it earlier in the week, and I just thought it was super cool. I was down, folks, in Mobile, Alabama this week for work. Not this work, like my real job. No offense. And I wish I didn't have to have a real job, but that's a different topic for a different podcast. But I was down in Mobile, Alabama, and by the way, any of you listeners out there, if you're in Mobile, man, what a beautiful city. I've never been there before, and I've been almost everywhere in the U.S., but for a big city, what a cool place. Like, a lot of historic buildings, a lot of history in that seaport, and I just loved it. And, of course, the people were, like, fantastic. Everyone was so friendly and so nice.
Yeah, now, what is the seaport on?
It is on the Bay of Mobile, or Mobile Bay.
Okay.
And then it opens up into the Gulf of Mexico, I guess now what may be known as the Gulf of the United States.
Excuse me, correction. The Gulf of America.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, you're corrected. So the Bay of Mobile is
Mobile
like
Bay, I think, or Bay of Mobile. Probably Mobile Bay.
it's got to
I
be
just can't
much
think
bigger
straight.
than a harbor, right?
Yeah. I mean, but it's big. Like they have shipbuilders there, and the USS Alabama battleship is anchored there, and you can go on tours of it. And they have a couple of big dry docks. They have a huge port, where the big, huge freighters are coming in and unloading containers. Gigantic rail yard, Bill. I was up at this place, top floor, this little restaurant of the Dauphine. Shout out to the Dauphine folks. And you're looking out 360 degrees at the whole city. And, I love trains, Bill. I love ships. I love planes. And I'm looking down in one direction, and there's this huge rail yard, with all the switching sidings.
Yeah, very
And
cool.
you can see the trains moving through all of the different switches onto the sidings.
It's amazing.
At the same time, you see a huge freighter, the cranes moving the containers off of it. Just
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is old school, not existent anymore. When you looked at that rail yard, do they still have or incorporate any of those turntables?
They I don't know if they still use turntables, but this was more of like a freight yard.
Okay.
So they didn't, it wasn't where like they'd store the engines, which is usually that's what they use the turntables for. I don't know if they use turntables anymore. I think they might use a series of switches to turn them around. But let's see if one of our fans knows. But I have seen some working old steam turntables. We
Yes.
have one here in North Carolina
Yes.
in the Spencer Rail Museum. And it is spectacular to see them move those big engines around on that
Yeah.
turntable. But
Yeah,
anyway, so
go
I'm
ahead. Go ahead.
shouting out to Mobile, but what I'm really here to talk about in oddities is the SS United States.
A ship.
And I sent you a picture of that, right, Bill?
Yes.
From the Dauphine. So, folks, I saw this a couple of times in the news, the printed news online during the last month or two, that they were moving this old steamship, huge steamship, that was up in Philadelphia down to Mobile, Alabama, it turns out. And then, believe it or not, folks, they're going to turn this ship into a reef off of Destin, Florida.
They're going to sink it?
They're going to sink it.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, but this ship is spectacular. So it's almost 1,000 feet long, so 980 feet long. It was an ocean liner. It looks like, what you'd imagine the Titanic to look like, or, the Queen Mary and stuff. But it's got like two huge smokestacks, and they're swept back. So it's like this sleek-looking ocean liner.
Yeah.
It was built in between 1950 and 1951, and it was the fastest ocean liner to ever cross the Atlantic, and it still holds that record today.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Absolutely incredible.
And so the innovation was already afoot when these guys, human beings are capable of making some really beautiful stuff. If they just organize as one and put their minds and hearts to it, we can accomplish a lot of
No
good
doubt
things.
about it. And I'll put a picture of this up on BigfootTerrorInTheWoods.com under episodes, episode 292. And you'll see it, and you look closely at the picture that I took, and you'll see it's rusty, and of course the paint's peeling and stuff. But like if you squint a little bit and don't pay attention to that, you look at this design and you're like, this thing is sexy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so 1951, and they took it out of service in 1969. So there was nothing wrong with it. It was doing great, but jet propulsion came along, and people were flying jets across the Atlantic, and a big ship like that, they couldn't fill it up anymore, and the company went out of business.
That's amazing, huh?
Isn't it amazing? Just like an inflection point,
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of like taxi cabs being replaced with Ubers.
And it's a shame. That ship also was, I think, the first to incorporate, I think the majority of the ship was made in aluminum.
Oh, I don't even know that. It could be.
Yeah. Now, they also said that that ship could cruise at 44 knots or 44 miles an hour.
Holy
and
moly.
it could go faster in reverse than the Titanic went forward.
Oh, boy.
That is just bizarre, you know?
You know, it also did a much better job avoiding icebergs.
Well,
than the
yeah.
Titanic.
Yeah, my God. It's nothing to joke about, you know, but
I know.
there was
But yet
only,
I joke about it.
Right. There was only one ship I know of that didn't do a good job with spotting icebergs, and we know what happened.
I know.
Incredible.
Brutal. But super cool, this ship. If you get a chance, folks, look it up. There was a story in the New York Times about it you can find. And on Wikipedia, there's a whole story about it, you know, listing about it. But check out the pictures and that, and it's worth thinking about it. And if any of you are scuba divers out there, man, this is going to be a magnificent dive off of Destin, Florida. They said they're going to sink it. So picture a 1,000-foot-long ship on the bottom there that you can go and scuba dive, and it'll be full of marine life, I'm sure, in just a couple of years.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. That thing will be a life support system under there. They will just take to that thing, and that'll be it.
Yeah, 100%.
Wow. So
All
what else
right,
you got,
so
brother?
We're shifting gears, okay? We're going to go from Mobile, Alabama, and a historic ocean liner to York County, Maine, a couple of months ago, where we see, again, pretty significant trail of footprints, looks like a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot, left after a snowstorm.
Yeah, the best time to catch them, right?
Oh, man. And you look at these, Bill, and it's a really high-quality video, you know, from a phone of him walking along. There are absolutely no other footprints in the snow. And these things are, you know, probably 7 to 8 feet apart.
Yeah,
footprint.
amazing.
And no other trail near them. Like me being the skeptic, you know, I'm thinking, okay, how did the pranksters do this one? And, Bill, I don't know.
Yeah, you know why you don't know? Because pranksters didn't do it.
I know.
You know, and there's nothing like the purity of a fresh snowfall. It's like a blank canvas to an artist, you know. And then something just comes trudging through with mud on their boots. I'm joking, of course.
Yep.
And the white canvas reveals it all.
Yep.
Amazing. This is in York?
York County, so it's in a place called the Hemlock Forest.
Okay.
And I guess this guy who saw it, his family owns about 30 acres there in the Hemlock Forest, but it's surrounded by about 500 acres of trust land. Bill, what else? Apple orchards.
Yeah, there you go.
They love apples.
Yeah, I mean, any creature, deer will just reach up on their hind legs and take a chomp of an apple or a pear or anything. They'll eat anything, especially.
By the way, Bill, if I'm walking by an apple tree, I might stand up on my hind legs and take a chomp.
You know it. I used to do this little 9-hole course out by Southampton or something, and it was a converted orchard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, or an estate that got sold off that just happened to have apple trees on it.
All right.
And whenever I went there, I'd pull down these apples. They were delicious, and nobody was even caring for them. You know, the worms were getting them, the birds, but there was always something to eat.
Well, the worms are extra protein, too.
Oh, I'm pro good worms. You know what I mean? Stripe is like worms. I like them, too.
Awesome. So, Bill, you know, I'm the skeptic, right? You know, the scientist guy, and I'm like, I don't know how a prankster could have done these. And they were big footprints in the snow, 7 to 8 feet apart, and they followed them for about 150 yards until, like, they became unrecognizable. You know, just whatever happened in the snow. You know.
Now, Kev, the other day I was looking down at my feet while I was walking. I didn't have a tape measure or anything with me. I just had it in my mind to eyeball my normal gait walking out of the building.
Yep.
Brightly lit hallway. And I was looking down. I'd estimate my normal step in stride from heel to toe at maybe 2 feet.
I was going to say 2.5, 3 feet.
Yeah, not 3, not for me.
Okay.
If I stretched it out to what would be a yardstick long, it was very abnormal.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm talking just a normal, casual walking gait.
Yeah.
And I'd estimate somewhere around 2 feet, maybe a little bit more, but not much longer than that. You're talking.
And I can tell you from walking through airports too much lately. If you were carrying your phone and looking at your phone, your spread between your feet is about 1 foot.
No kidding.
I'm like, people, I have a plane to catch. Can you move along or move to the side?
Yeah. That's amazing. When you're talking 7, 8 feet, whatever laid that down has ridiculously long legs and also has to have really Kev, I'm thinking 7, 8 foot stride. You got to be a 10-foot tall thing. I mean, that it would take a lot to produce that type of spread.
Yeah.
My God, 7 to 8 feet.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. So he filmed these, and anything come of it, or he just posted it?
No, I mean, they filed a report with BFRO. BFRO came out and investigated it. Pretty much confirmed. We don't know what this is, and they also commented on the 7 to 8 foot spread between the feet.
Incredible.
That stride.
Wow, man. Really good. So, should I move on here?
I think so.
Okay, now, as we get into this, folks, if your idea of reading is comic books, you're probably not going to enjoy this. It is a fairly lengthy account, and when you talk to intelligent people, they say intelligent things. Anyways, that's the plan going in, isn't it? This is a very detailed account. Stay with it. There's a lot of meat on the bone here, and I think you are going to be thoroughly impressed. This following account of a grouping of events was given to me by Alistair and Marjorie McNabb. Alistair was himself a transplant from Scotland that was hired by a firm in New Hampshire for his scientific abilities, and during his employment, he met and married Marjorie Tennyson, who also has a smidgen of Scottish in her ancestry. However, it is actually Alistair's passion for fly fishing that brings us into the story in an area known as the Fitzpatrick Wilderness, which is adjacent with the Shoshone National Forest.
Where is that, Bill? Shoshone
Wyoming.
National Forest?
Wyoming. Alistair begins. This was to be our fourth fishing adventure in Wyoming. The region contains some of the best fly fishing and wilderness hiking in the world, and it's breathtaking country. After our first trip, we had quickly learned that it is well worth your time and money to work with a good outfitter or guide service when you're planning to go into such areas. In most, if not all situations, you will need some type of permits and or licenses, and the area knowledge of local men or women is a valuable asset which cannot be measured in dollars and cents. This is not the time or place to be cheap. For the price of a Hawaiian vacation for two, you can be readily supplied with everything and anything you will need, including a guide. In doing so, you are not only helping yourselves, but you are supporting an industry and a people in the region which help ensure that these resources will be in place for a very long time into the future. We met up with our guide, Joseph, at a predetermined location. He was slightly built, rugged-looking man who was pure Arapaho heritage, and his family had been in this region for many generations. We were to hike into and fish in two different areas. The first site that we would fish was named Big Meadows, and the second along the route was Downs Fork Meadows. There is a creek running right through this area which changes its name periodically as you trek. The only name I can ever remember is Dinwoody Creek, simply because of the name and its European roots. The area consists of a rocky mountainous surround with pine forests, grassy meadows, and water. That's Wyoming, and that's why we love it. Each time we come to this state, we prospect a new area, so this particular location was brand new for the two of us. We were each given a holstered pistol, and Joseph had a rifle and pistol as well. This is grizzly country, and there are plenty of visible herd animals and trout as well, which the bears are itching to sink their claws into. So we knew it was eyes wide open from here on out. The entire area that we planned to pass through is similar throughout, full of thick grassy meadows and marshy areas surrounded by extremely rugged timber. Rocky mountainous terrain rises up behind the tree line, with the land's appearance being the same in every direction that you looked. This trip was in no way particularly difficult, and the actual mileage covered was not very far on foot. It was more of a casual hike, with most of our time spent focused on catching trout. We hiked in and set up camp on the edge of big meadows. From where we were in the timberline, we had a good firm patch of ground on which to pitch a tent, with our camp being within a reasonable walking distance across the meadow for us to reach the creek. Right behind the stretch of forest where we had set up our camp was a small mountain jutting up from the earth, and across from the creek was a lake. During the first 2 days, we spotted a grizzly coming down across the meadow. It posed no threat to us and was fairly far away each time we saw it. We also saw a moose grazing on the thick green grass. And this is Marjorie speaking now. And I had told Alistair on more than one occasion that having a guide brought a certain sense of stability to us whenever we saw something. Joseph was not by any means flustered by a predator that might have otherwise frightened us to death. He had a mutual respect for the surroundings and its inhabitants, which is not to say that Joseph was foolhardy or lax in any way. He simply was not visibly moved by them. On one afternoon, we were lined up side by side, fishing from the bank of Dinwoody Creek. We all faced in the direction of a small lake, which lay to the northwest. Next to the lake, there was an outcropping of rock which butted up against it, appearing like a rugged hill or a mound. At most, it was 200 feet tall, which is much smaller than the surrounding mountainous landscape. Back to Alistair. Marjorie and I were standing with our eyes focused on the creek when Joseph suddenly said, "Look over there, right by the edge of that hill. Do you see it?" We both turned our heads and looked, trying to follow the direction of Joseph's point, and he spoke again. "Do you see it? It's the hairy man." Now, Marjorie and I were not ignorant of what he was talking about or pointing at. Although neither of us had seen one, we knew he had to be talking about a Bigfoot. As we focused on the base of this mound, there it was, loping along the edge of the hill adjacent to the marsh. Once we laid eyes on it, it was very easy to observe since it was completely out in the open. It must have come out of the woods that lay a short distance north of our camp. It had to have walked right across the meadow while we were fishing, but we hadn't seen it, and yet there it was. I would say it was 500 or 600 yards away, and the creature's iconic silhouette was unmistakable. The marsh or meadow area consisted of bright green grass that was about 2 to 3 feet tall, and the grass was especially green along the water's edge where it abutted the rocky outcropping. There were no trees to obscure our view, and the Bigfoot's profile was very dark against a rocky background, since the rocks were beige in color. Its arms swung like a clock's pendulum as it took long and deliberate strides, and it walked with some a forward-leaning posture, which was quite evident to our eyes. Within 2 minutes, it disappeared beyond the bend and was gone from our view, and we had just become members of the Believers Club. Pardon the pun, but this was a really big deal for me and my wife, so the rest of the day was spent with the three of us talking about Bigfoot. Around the campfire that night, Joseph started telling us of Indian folklore that pertained to these hairy men. He had actually personally seen the creatures many times, but he was as surprised as we were to catch sight of one on that particular day. However, it was still more routine for him than, of course, it was for us. During the night, Joseph added that we should keep our eyes out for the hairy man while we were here. He said that throughout history, the Indian people had experienced and spoke of some bad things regarding these creatures. Their tribal records mention many encounters, including those of attacks on people, livestock, and even unexplained disappearances. Moving on. Because of the tone of his voice, we became certain that he was unhappy that this sighting had occurred. That evening, I also took note of the fact that he spent a fair amount of time cleaning and prepping guns. The next day, we packed up and walked to the back of the lake where the Bigfoot had disappeared from view. Joseph said that that area was where we could pick up on Glacier Trail. Without the trail, we would have to trek entirely through the woods to get to the next location. From there, we would make our way north to an area called Downs Fork Meadows. I wouldn't have known the path was even there without a professional like Joseph to guide us. Now, I'd be a liar if I didn't say to you that when we started down this route, things became a whole lot creepier. Not just because of what we had seen, but because this trail area became quite a bit tighter. Everything had closed in around us. Large stands of timber flanked us on both sides, and some rock walls cropped up here and there, forming what felt like a prison cell around us. As I remember, it was a curvy trail, and at any given point it was difficult to see far ahead. I kept thinking of old westerns, where the Indians would set up an ambush on some unsuspecting cowboys, positioning themselves behind some boulders on a cliff. No offense to Joseph. To get to Dinwiddie Creek, we went straight through a dark stand of trees, after which we found ourselves winding around some more ambush points or high rocks. As we came out of the trees, we found ourselves near a fork in two creeks. This was the Downs Fork Creek and the south end of Honeymoon Creek. Quite a cool little area. There were several meadows with a number of creeks or streams meandering around within them. They were like small tributaries off the main creeks, and the meadows had several stands of trees spotted within them. I know I speak for all of us, saying that this place really struck me in the most amazing way. We almost felt like Alice going down the rabbit hole and popping out in a wonderland. Now, just so you know, Joseph's job was not to fish. In fact, we had asked him numerous times to join us with a rod, and he politely declined every time. He would spot for us or get in the creek and help with landing a fish, and he also paid strict attention to everything else, like setting up our flies and leaders. In Downs Fork, however, he was seemingly preoccupied with his field glasses. When I asked him about this, he said it was grizzly territory, and that it would be best for all of us if he kept watch. We, of course, didn't argue with him. He was our guide, and he knew best. During the latter part of the afternoon, something let out the loudest, most prolonged howling roar that is humanly imaginable. It sounded as loud as a fire department siren. The howl was as intense as you could possibly imagine, and it sounded close. I looked around in all directions, but I could see nothing except for thick forest. Truth be told, the sound seemed like it was emanating from all around us rather than in any particular place. It was the loudest, most enveloping blast of noise that I had ever heard in my life, and it brought us all to a complete standstill. We stood there, completely aghast, our jaws hanging open, and Joseph had already brought his rifle to bear. Following his example, we dropped our rods and grabbed our pistols. The sound stopped, and then we heard nothing. We held our ground, turning in every direction while not saying a word. It seemed like 15 minutes had passed before Joseph finally broke the silence. He turned towards us and whispered, "The hairy man is here." I remember thinking to myself that even when holding a gun, one can sometimes feel defenseless, and I never felt more vulnerable. As far as I was concerned, whatever made that noise could eat bullets and spit them back out again. We had a momentary discussion about the best course of action, and then we started back out the way we came in, working our way through the trees, ambush points, and everything else. This time, we were like jungle fighters looking around corners with our guns first. We hightailed it all the way back to the camp, and nobody said a thing about needing to drink or stopping to eat. It was all about moving, and moving fast. We must have been about 2 miles south of Big Meadows when we broke out into an area that felt less secluded. Now able to see in virtually every direction and having decent visibility. We knew that, like it or not, we would have to spend the night, and this would be the place to set camp. When I tell you I had an uneasy night, it's an understatement. Nobody could sleep, regardless of what my wife and I did. Joseph felt it was his duty to be awake and stand guard. The minutes, like hours. And I kept waiting for a bonsai attack, but nothing happened. In the morning, we finally took the time to eat. All of us hungry. And we needed all of our energy in order to finish the final stretch of the journey. To this day, we still send a Christmas card to Joseph to let him know we're thinking about him. As for my wife and I, we have not been to Wyoming in over 15 years, and we don't plan to go back. To this very at the end of my interview, the McNabbs told me that they will only fish in more open and less rural locations from that point on, sticking within the confines of a town or a spot near a highway. I asked them what aspect stood out the most about this particular encounter, and this is what Marjorie said. "Bill, nothing could prepare you for the screaming, which seemed like it was coming down from the sky above us. It was so loud that at one moment I actually felt it would hurt me, like some type of sonic weapon. I know this doesn't make any sense to you, but if a child had been there, I think they would have just curled up in a ball on the ground and started crying. It was absolutely terrifying, and certainly something that myself and Alistair will never ever forget. The two of us talk regularly about how brave Joseph must be to go back into these areas again and again to earn his living." And there you have it.
Wow.
Incredible, huh?
Great account from rural Wyoming.
Absolutely staggering. And you see the details that Alistair and Marjorie, because they're consummate professionals, scientific people. They when they're telling you a story, they're really telling you a story. If you just take the time to sit back and listen and learn. Incredible, huh, Kev?
Amazing.
So
Hail from some fish hunters
yeah,
in Wyoming.
Yeah,
Wow.
fly
That's
fishing.
awesome, Bill.
Wyoming is a renowned, I think Colorado too, right, for fly fishing?
Yeah, absolutely. Colorado, Wyoming, New Mexico, that whole area there. Really, really good places. But Wyoming is so beautiful. I mean, there's just no people in Wyoming. Montana used to be that way, but a lot of people live there now. They moved in, from California and places like that. But Wyoming is still pretty darn rural and spectacular. The Grand Teton Mountains, like if I close my eyes, I can see their sawtooth shape. Mm-hmm. Devil's Tower, made famous in Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Mm-hmm.
When I first went by Devil's Tower in a car, boy, we got hit with like the worst hailstorm. And it was like, holy cow, like there's no place to take shelter,
Yeah.
No overpasses or anything like that.
Did it seem to just come out of nowhere?
Out of nowhere.
Interesting.
Could have been aliens throwing snowballs at me. I don't know.
There's a lot of strangeness going on out there, and I was just trying to help a certain individual.
Cool place. I mean, nobody around.
Yeah. I talk to Philip all the time, Dave, Rich. Something really unique and magnificent in a kind of strange kind of way happens to individuals who have an encounter, a real encounter with, as the police officer said, something I was told did not exist.
Right.
And when you join that club, it just separates you from all the rest, because you now know a truth that very few people will ever know. And to them, you're a weirdo, a charlatan. You're telling a story. I don't believe you. A wink and a nod when you walk away. Talking about, hey, I guess Bill hit the bong too much. You know what I mean? But when you see something, these footprints up in York County, Alistair and Marjorie McNabb fly fishing, seeing a Bigfoot coming across the end of this meadow and then hearing that howl that just scared the bejesus out of them. It's incredible. And you can't walk away from anything like that without having it etched in your brain for the rest of your life. Incredible, Kev,
100%.
I tell you what, I wish I saw that track up in York County.
Yeah.
I can only imagine just walking up on it, and then all of a sudden your eyes are open, like, what the hell am I looking at here? And
What is that?
Yeah, you know what you're looking at,
Absolutely.
Wow. So what do we have, Kevin, our listener mail tonight?
Yeah, we got some good listener mail. And the first one comes in from Nicholas. And Nicholas says, the subject says, website issues. Of course, that makes the hair on my neck go up, Bill, as you know.
We spend so much time caring for our website.
I know, the professionals that we are. And he says, hey, guys, long-time listener. Anyways, just wanted to bring to your attention that when you click on the shop link on your website, it redirects you to some Chinese automobile parts supplier. And Bill, for some reason, Nicholas thinks that's a mistake.
We planned it that way, Nicholas.
I mean, if you look really closely and you translate all of those Chinese characters, those two guys standing there, it says WJ and KJ's Auto Parts.
Kev, if this doesn't tell the people what we're in this for, I don't know what does. Because, folks, we're not trying to sell you anything. Yeah, I talk about my books, but that's how I got into this genre. I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention to you my credentials. But as far as it goes, I mean, we're not selling cigars, shirts, hats, mugs, pennants, nothing. You know, and
But
yeah,
we
I
are
guess.
selling Chinese auto parts.
We are
let's be clear. We got to pay the bills somehow.
But listen, we're going to have to move our factory to the United States now to take care
Yeah,
of
the tariffs are going to shut us down.
Nah, but we'll be employing people in America. I love that stuff.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. But I did fix the link. I just sent it to Amazon. So if you go there and it says shop, it's going to take you to Amazon so you can buy some of my brother's books.
There you go. Well, thanks for the
Thanks for
input.
pointing that out, Nicholas. But yeah, I had a laugh when I clicked on it, and it looked like Kato fighting with Bruce Lee on an auto parts page.
Well, listen, Kato wouldn't be fighting with Bruce Lee. Kato was Bruce Lee.
I know. That was a little inside humor there. But the two guys did look like the same guy. I'm just saying.
Remember Peter Sellers in the Pink Panther? He'd come into the apartment and he'd say, Kato, I know you're in here.
Not now, kiddo. I thought you said that your dog did not bite.
Right?
It is not my dog.
Famous one-liner. Oh,
I
my
haven't seen
God.
that in 100 years. I might have to watch it again. See if it's still funny. I'm sure it is.
It is, man. What else we got, Kev? What
All
other-
right. So Deb writes in, and the subject is Evil Eye, comma, Teddy Roosevelt. So Deb, you had my attention with that subject line.
Okay.
She says, we ran across your podcast by accident while we were shopping for Chinese auto parts. No, not really. She does say that she ran across it by accident. She says, we love it. Rex and I have experienced much negativity in our day and found your stories, humor, and brotherly love to be a healing break from hardship and loss.
Ah, there you have it.
And that is wonderful, Deb. I'm sorry for your hardship and loss, but it makes our day to be able to bring a smile to some of you who are having a tough time, whatever that tough time is.
Yep.
I get such a kick out of the cartoon antics since we grew up in the same era. Laughter has always been a big joy in our lives. I want to set the record straight, though, on Teddy Roosevelt. Okay, so she's shifting gears here, Bill.
Okay.
She loves us, but she's setting the record straight. She says, in a past episode, you had stated South Dakota had played a big part in Roosevelt's life. That is simply inaccurate. It is North Dakota where he ranched, healed some of his asthma, and gave credit to our state for the ability to become president of the United States. In fact, we have the national park named after him located in the Badlands of North Dakota. If you have, and then she shifts gears again, which is cool. If you haven't already, it would be fun if you covered the evil eye in the oddities segment. And that is a great idea, Deb. And just so you know, and when I look to my right at my window here, I have this big glass evil eye hanging on the window. Not because, like, I love the evil eye, but one of my best friends who lives out in Western Canada sent it to me.
Wow.
It's a gift, and it's super cool, but it is creepy. So I got the evil eye here, and I did some reading about it, but I think we are going to cover it in the oddities.
All right. Well, investigate, my brother.
I know.
And
then
I don't
she says,
recall- I don't
we love
recall-
the podcast for a dozen reasons. One of the top reasons being Bigfoot himself. But that's enough said for now. God bless the both of you.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, great email. Thank you for writing in, Deb. And again, we're sorry for the challenges that you face, but we're glad at the same time that we could bring a little bit of a smile to your face once in a while.
Yes, and listen, you know what will also help you? The purchase of 38 books in audio and paperback will just really help you along.
But really good stuff, and I will look into the evil eye. So, Bill, that's it this week. Great podcast, great account. Folks, check out the SS United States. I put a picture of it up on our website, not under the auto parts area, but under episodes, under 292. And check out the picture or just Google it and read the story about it. I think you're going to love it. Even if you don't like ships, it's pretty cool looking. And what a story. This still holds the world record, and yet it's going to become a reef off of Destin, Florida soon.
Well, that's it for another great podcast, Kev. And remember, folks, you should take a lead from Joseph and the McNabs in carrying a gun. Whether you're walking around the Northeast, Wyoming, Texas, wherever you may be, my friends, remember one thing. Always carry more gun than you think you're going to need. Sleep tight.